Tanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaudamaktabindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So welcome everybody this morning. Some of you are coming here for the very first time. Is anyone coming to New Mayapur for the first time? Several devotees coming here for their very first time. Well, we hope you have a wonderful time here at New Mayapur. Now, I'm going to ask a question from our temple manager, Lochan Prabhu. What will be the arrangement now? Translation. It's important the next 3 days that many of you may not understand French or English or whatever language it is, that we have some translation. Is it? I don't know. I think it's important for those who are online, if there are devotees online.
What do you prefer, Maharaj?
What I prefer is one thing, but what is best for the devotees may be a different thing. And that's what we really should look at, isn't it? Because our time is short. It's already 8:20 almost. We started a little late.
Depends on the temple room how many French speakers who don't speak English.
It is, but is online also? Does it go to our French audience? Pardon?
Let's not worry about online for now.
Not worry about it. Okay. All right, well, I'm just going to speak because time is short, and I believe we're supposed to be outside by, what time are they arriving? Or something?
They'll be around 9:30 to 10.
Oh, it says 9 o'clock on the board.
Just post it there, just send me a message.
Okay, so they are a little delayed, so we're not in too much of a major rush. So, how many, somebody ask, how many of you do not understand English, or at least my English? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that doesn't mean French. What language do you speak?
Tamil. They don't understand French or English.
No French, no English. Okay. What other language? So you're translating to Tamil. Fine. That's going on over there. And 4 or 5 devotees do not understand English. I really wish we had as much time as we could, and we could just do both, one and then the other one. What do you want to do? I'll leave it to you.
We have extra time. We don't have to stop the class at 9, so we can go before.
We don't. Oh yeah, but okay.
However you like it.
Well, these are difficult decisions. Who would translate quickly? Madhavendra Puri. Pardon?
I can translate to him.
Well, there's about 5 or 6 devotees in that category. Put the hands up. Those who need a French, ask them in French. Who need French translation? There's at least 5 devotees. Hands up for those who need French. You need what do you need? Czech? Czech? What language? What language? Language? Ask her. What language? Doesn't understand language.
I give the book to Madam Andrea, you will translate in the back.
Okay. If anyone's offended, you please, I really apologize. We'll do our best. So translation for French is at the back. For Tamil is over here. Do we need Czech? Translation into Czech or Slovak or Russian or whatever language you may need. Any other languages? Manjuali, you've got your hand up. What language do you want? Italian over there. Italian over there. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's chapter number 2. And chapter 2 is entitled Prayers by the Demigods. It's quite appropriate. This next month we have Balaram Purnima and Janmashtami in the next coming weeks. So we're reading you can say the build-up to the appearance of Lord Balaram and the build-up to the appearance of Lord Sri Krishna. So today we're reading text number 3. Is it 3 on the board? Yeah. It says 3 to 5, but it's specifically 3. Kindly repeat. Te pidita nivishuhu nivivishuhu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalam Api Te Pidita Ninivishuhu Te Pidita Nivivishuhu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi Videhan Koshalanapi Te Pidita Nivishu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi Te Pidita Nivivishu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi not all at once, please.
Te pidita nivishu Te pidita nivishu Guru Panchala Kekaya Guru Panchala Kekaya Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Koshalanapi Te pidita nivishu Te pidita nivishu Panchala Kekaya Guru Panchala Kekaya Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi Videhan Koshalanapi Te Pidita Nivivishu
Te Pidita Nivivishu
Guru Panchala Kekayan
Kuru Panchala Kekayan
Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan
Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan
Videhan Koshalanapi
Videhan Koshalanapi. Ladies, please. Te Pidita Nivivishu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi Te Pidita Nivivishu Kuru Panchala Kekayan Shalvan Vidarbhan Nishadhan Videhan Koshalanapi K. They. The kings of the Yadu dynasty.
The kings of the Yadu dynasty.
Piditaha.
Piditaha.
Being persecuted.
Being persecuted.
Nivivishuhu. Took shelter or entered the kingdoms. Kurupanchala. The countries occupied by the Kurus and Panchalas. Kekayan. The countries of the Kekayas. Shalvan. The countries occupied by the Shalvas. Vidarbhan. The countries occupied by the Vidarbhas. Nishadan. The countries occupied by the Nishadas. Videhan. The country of Videha. Koshalan. Api. As well as the countries occupied by the Koshalas. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Yes. Persecuted by the demoniac kings, the Yadavas left their own kingdom and entered various others, like those of the Kurus, the Panchalas, the Kekayas, the Shalvas, the Vidarbhas, the Nishadas, the Videhas, and the Koshalas. And there is no purport. Any questions?
No, I have a question.
Yes, Maharaj.
This Shalva, does that refer to the kingdom of the demon Shalva, who later attacked Rama?
I don't know. I mean, you could assume it is not, but it might be. You never know. There was changes sometimes in, let's say, attitude. We may see that sometimes in our own experience, isn't it? We have a friend, something happens, and we have an enemy. Have you ever noticed that in life? Or maybe sometimes, maybe less common, the other way around. I think it's less common, I may be wrong, but you have an enemy. Actually, you always shouldn't have any enemy, but sometimes it feels like that. You have an enemy and then something happens and you become friends. The other way around is usually a little more probably common. It's quite easy to make an enemy in this world, is it not? Doesn't take much, does it? It depends how you define enemy, but somebody you just don't want to know about or be with. Rather they didn't exist. So sometimes that may happen also, but I don't really know. And we see, I was reading last night, or this morning, I can't remember, from Mahabharata, about, for instance, Rukmi. And everybody knows about Rukmi, maybe you don't all know, but many of you know about Rukmi. He was famous in the pastimes of Krishna because Krishna married his sister, Rukmini, right? So he became quite inimical towards Krishna. He was already inimical, but he became especially inimical when Krishna kidnapped his sister. Yet, amazing enough, when the Battle of Kurukshetra began, Rukmi came to the camp of the Pandavas and offered himself and his army in the service of the Pandavas. Quite extraordinary. The Pandavas refused his offer for various reasons. He went to the other party, the Kauravas. They also refused him for different reasons. He didn't take part. But you see, he was an enemy, but sometimes, for various reasons, we act in different ways. But I don't know in this case. Good question. Some research could be there, maybe. You might find out somewhere. Do you know yourself, Maharaj? No, I don't know either. Okay, we're not going to get to the verse. We'd like to welcome His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj to New Mayapur. Ki Jai! His first time since 1986, is that correct?
I'm not sure. Maybe I came another time also.
Anyone remember it? Maharaj said last night that was probably the last time. Quite a long time. 37 years ago. Anyway, it seems like a long time no matter what it was. So Maharaj, another question.
This is another technical question. How does the Rukmi coming on the battle...
Rukmi.
Rukmi, on the battle of Kurukshetra, on the battlefield. How does that fit with his being killed by Dalaram, chronologically?
Well, it must have been after the Battle of Kurukshetra. It's very difficult to say. It's another...
It must have been before the Rakasuri Yagya, because the other kings are mentioned.
Yes, they're all mentioned, aren't they? Well, again, all these technical and complicated chronological subject matters. There's hundreds and thousands, the whole Puranas are full of these, How could this have happened, It seems like this happened before that, and this, how could he be there? It seems like he was already killed over there, and this one is, it's quite a, maybe somebody has done a genealogical table and a very chronological table of all the events, I don't know. But it does seem to me that our acharyas don't pay so much attention to the details of chronology.
Well, Jiva Goswami says that the chronology of the 10th canto is not, the way the chapters are presented, it's not chronological.
Not chronological, yeah. You can't count. In our Western conditioning, chronology is kind of an evidence almost. We pay a lot of attention, don't we, to chronology? And we reject and accept things quite often because of historical chronology, or what we perceive as chronology. But it's not necessarily the same case in the case of presenting transcendental purpose. Doesn't depend exactly on external perception and chronology as we perceive it. Some of these events, we could go on and on if we keep going like this and not even reach the verse which we're supposed to be reading. But it's unique, because it has a higher purpose. It's not just to establish your illusory philosophy or deny, some, whatever it is, culture or some history or some philosophy or some religious belief or whatever it is. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to convince us that we are meant to utilize this human form of life for developing a love of God, love of Krishna. And whatever it takes for that purpose, sometimes, things aren't always in the historic order because of certain points or certain reasons that need to be expressed in certain order in order that we can progress. But I would like to go on with permission. Without permission, I'm going to go on. Eketam manurandana gyatayak payupasate hateshu shatsu baleshu devakya ogasenina. There are two verses, 4 and 5. Saptama Vaishnavang Dhamma Yamanantam Pachakshate Garbo Babuva Devakya Harsha Shoka Vivardhanaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kindly lend me your ears. In other words, that means listen carefully. Some of their relatives, however, began to follow Kamsa's principles and act in his service. This is another mystifying, you could say, event or pastime. After Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, killed the 6 sons of Devaki, a plenary portion of Krishna entered her womb as her 7th child, arousing her pleasure and her lamentation. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as who? Ananta. or another name, of course, is Baladev. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as Ananta, who belongs to Krishna's second quadruple expansion. So we'll read the purport. This is a little bit like a introduction to the subject which is coming. It's not expanded on in the upcoming verses. Just an introduction to the subject which is coming and a conclusion of the previous subject. Purport. Some of the chief devotees such as Akrura, stayed with Kamsa to satisfy him. This they did for various purposes. They all expected the Supreme Personality of Godhead to appear as the eighth child as soon as Devaki's other children were killed by Kamsa. And they were eagerly awaiting his appearance. By remaining in Kamsa's association, they would be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead take birth and display his childhood pastimes. And Akrura would later go to Vrindavan to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. The word Payupasate is significant because it indicates that some devotees wanted to stay near Kamsa in order to see all of these pastimes of the Lord. The 6 children killed by Kamsa had formerly been sons of Marichi, but because of having been cursed by a Brahmana, they were obliged to take birth as grandsons of Hiranyakashipu. Kamsa had taken birth as Kalanemi, and now he was obliged to kill his own sons. This was a mystery. As soon as the sons of Devaki were killed, they would return to their original place. The devotees wanted to see this also. Generally speaking, no one kills his own nephews. But Kamsa was so cruel that he did so without hesitation. Interesting here. Yeah. Okay, we'll go back. Ananta Sankarshan belongs to the second Chaturvyuha, or quadruple expansion. This is the opinion of experienced commentators. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You could say in this purport that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned many subject matters related to the verse, which also covers quite a wide spectrum of Krishna's pastimes. The pastimes before the appearance of Baladev or Krishna, the killing of the children of Devaki, the unique mention here of certain devotees who kept association with Kamsa, the appearance in the womb of Devaki, of Ananta, the seventh child after the first 6 mentioned here being killed, and the fact that he is, Ananta that is or belongs to Krishna's second quadruple expansions. And further expanded in the purport, Prabhupada describes, at least in summary, the history behind the killing of those 6 sons or children of Devaki, to going back to the early stages. We discussed this a few days ago, so we're not going to go into particular expansion on that, even if we were able to. On the reasons that they were cursed to take birth, as is generally mentioned, as grandsons of Hiranyakashipu, and being cursed by Hiranyakashipu to be killed in their next life by their father, at that time, whose name was Kalanemi. And Kalanemi would take birth, as we know, as Kamsa, as was mentioned, and Kamsa would kill his own, unknowingly, his own sons, who appeared as the children of Devaki. This is all orchestrated by the will of the Lord, or the arrangement of the Lord, for certain purposes. It's very mystical. There's like 2 things going on or more simultaneously. One is, you could say, the apparent historical events, and the other is usually by the Lord, by his activities, the devotees by their activities, both for pro and negative, are showing us also. There's lessons to be learned here, many lessons to be learned in this pastime. But the one which we're going to try to focus on this morning is probably the most, is also mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, but not expanded too much. The fact that the certain devotees took shelter so much, not shelter exactly, but they remained in the association of Kamsa. How they stayed unaffected or were affected by that association, and the relevance of that in our lives. It's generally understood. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was asked how do we tell who is a Vaishnava, he answered sometimes differently, but in relationship to association, what did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? Asat Sangachag e Vaishnavachar. What does that mean? Other than Madhavendra Puri Maharaj and anyone else who knows, someone who doesn't know, tell me, excuse me. Anyone else knows what it means? Yes, Nitai. Yes. A devotee, simply a Vaishnava, he doesn't like to associate with non-devotees. What does that mean? It means where do we go? I mean, we might look at ourselves as a non-devotee also, so who do we associate with? And if we see everyone else in the material world, generally a non-devotee is one whose life is aimed towards sense gratification, economic development, and so on, or has an impersonalist, or some other kind of, other than the devotional purpose in life, is generally in the category of Avaishnava, non-Vaishnava. So who do you associate? How do you associate with the world around us? Do we? Do we associate or not? Or do we hide ourselves in a cave? Yes, somebody said. Who was that? Oh, yeah. Yes, Baptiste.
Yes, we associate with others.
Pardon?
Yes, we do.
We do what?
We do associate with others.
Yeah, that's my question. How?
By preaching.
By? Preaching, okay. Preaching is a broad subject matter, isn't it? Very broad. You could go on all morning about, preaching and whatever you wish to call. But so many different, let's say, expansions of that word are there in terms of showing by example, showing how you could be a devotee, even if you are, for whatever reason, in a situation. You have to go to the work office place, you have to go to the school, you have to go to the shop. I don't talk to you. I don't listen to you. I don't look at you. I don't hear anything you say. I don't want to even know about you. You're not going to be able to maintain your position probably very well in your job or your whatever you're doing. It's obvious that preaching is not only trying to inform people about Krishna. There's more to it. Showing by example, yes, you can be a devotee pursuing the path of devotional service in this lifetime and be married, and be man, woman, old, young, doesn't matter where we're from, even somehow or another. Of course, there's you could say a higher platform where one transcends everything, but at this stage we're practicing the path of devotional service. So you can do that in any order of life, no matter where you are. What did Lord Chaitanya say to the Kurma Brahmin? Thank you, Madhavendra. What does that mean?
It means wherever you are, just preach, be yourself, and preach the philosophy in terms of Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, preach the message of Krishna consciousness as you've heard it from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita. And it's not just about speaking it, it's acting on it, isn't it? Acting on it. Applying it to our own lives. We have to preach to ourselves as well. Now, let's get back a little bit. It's a broad subject. Why did they associate with Kamsa? Is mentioned here. Why? Why did Akrura? Who else associated with Kamsa amongst those who were considered devotees? Yeah, he did on a distant way. He would come and go. But living in Mathura with Kamsa. One other famous personality.
Bhishma?
Pardon?
Bhishma or Bhima? I don't remember.
No, that's these were the Kauravas. They were talking of Kamsa here. That's mentioned, Akrura, but who else? Excuse me? Who? I can't hear. Vasudeva, okay, yes, by force of circumstances, he was under arrest, basically speaking. He may have stayed anyway for obvious reasons, for Krishna's pastimes, to fulfill Krishna's desires, the devotee acts. Okay, that's another subject. Who else? Ugasena. Well, he was now also under arrest too. One other person. Very interesting character.
Flower America?
Pardon? Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning the Sudama, the flower man. Huh? That's another interesting personality. Yeah? And the lady who brought the sandalwood paste, what's her name? Remember? Tree? Kubja. Yeah. Kubja. I mean, she was, really a devotee. I mean, not manifesting it, but she was really a devotee. So there were some who stayed by him, but there's one other who, at least in the history more, was very famous. Kritavarma. He stayed behind too. Because this is brought up later on when you read the story of the Shamantaka jewel. Many of you heard of this story. It's a fascinating story of the Shamantaka jewel, which had many, many factors to it, including the marriage of Satyabhama to Krishna and so many things. And how amazing it is that Kritavarma and Akrura together conspired to steal to kill Satyajit and steal the Shamantaka jewel. It's quite phenomenal, quite mystical. Without getting into the detail of that pastime, the history explains, at least the purport explains, that because of their association with Kamsa, they were affected. They were affected by that bad association. It does affect us. You may have to by various circumstances, but it can affect us. Obligations are there. You mentioned Bhishma. You could say others too in that assembly of the Kauravas. For whatever reason, they remained. Even though they're devotees of Krishna, they were opposing Krishna in the battle of Kurukshetra. It's incredible, isn't it? Bhishma. Who else? Drona. Kripa. So many great personalities opposing Krishna. They knew he was the supreme, you could say. But they opposed him. Various reasons. of course, because you can look at the history saying that they associated with Kamsa, therefore they became affected. And they were covered. They became covered, at least momentarily. But we read and we hear, there is, I can't remember which commentary, but we read that, Akrura said, this is your arrangement, my Lord. You put us in this situation. Bewildered, or to act in such a way as if they're against the will of the Lord. To kill Satyajit, the father of Krishna's wife? Well, there's a history there too. At different times, Satyajit had promised his daughter to them. Especially Kritavarma, he was appeared to be a little affected because he promised to have the hand of Satyabhama, but he didn't get it. Kerr also mentions, though different, maybe, reasons. But the real reason is the plan of the Lord. Krishna has his plan. We wouldn't have all these pastimes otherwise, would we? What would you think about? It'd be quite boring. Not boring, but not so interesting. Everything has a unique hand of the Lord working behind all these various arrangements. Knowingly or unknowingly, the devotees take various parts. It's interesting to note here, Akrura and whoever else, we mentioned some of them, see the Lord's pastimes. I don't have an answer. I don't know exactly how they saw the Lord's pastimes until the Lord came to Mathura. No answer, I don't know. But obviously when he came to Mathura, they had the opportunity to directly witness his pastimes there. Of course, Akrura had a very special mission. It's quite a little easier to understand Akrura's situation. He had a very special mission to come to Sri Vrindavan Dham. What for? Why did he come to Vrindavan? To? To take Krishna back to Mathura, huh? Quite a task. Maybe not. He's known as Akrura, means not cruel, because after that, all the residents of Vrindavan called him Krura, a very cruel person. And primarily because of that, it is mentioned because of his association with Kamsa, but primarily because of that is understood, and this will be explained later on, that he was cursed by the residents of Vrindavan. Cursed. And thus, that curse resulted in a few things. One of his taking the part of, conspirator to kill Satyajit and take the Shamantaka jewel. He also, when Krishna came back, when the Shamantaka jewel was taken and Satyajit was killed, Satyabhama, of course, was devastated. Krishna happened to be in Hastinapura. She sent a message there, and Krishna returned to... she went there, actually. Message came, and Krishna went back and then he chased after Shatadhanva, who killed Satyajit, and Krishna killed Satyadhanva, but Satyadhanva didn't have the jewel was with Akrura. Satyadhanva left it with Akrura, and then eventually, of course, Krishna made the arrangements. He didn't say anything immediately, but at the right time, he spoke to Akrura, and Akrura admitted, yes, I have the jewel, this, that, the other. Krishna didn't make a big issue of everything else, but before that happened, Akrura actually appeared to be afraid when Krishna came back. After Shatadhanva was killed, Akrura disappeared from Dwarka. He ran for his life practically. This is also a result of the curse of the residents of Vrindavan. He had to disassociate with the Lord and the devotees for some time. He went to Kashi, of all places. He had family relationship there, his father Shvapalka, whole history there. And he stayed there. So the effect was there to two things here, bad association and upsetting the devotees. So the negative side, positive, you could say, both negative, but positive. When you're in the association of devotees, if we offend devotees or put devotees into distress, there will be a result. There will be a result. The result, material, well, in case of a Kruger, you could say he's teaching a lesson, he's playing a role, he's Krishna's associate, eternal associate, devotee of the Lord. But there, as Arjuna took a role in speaking of Bhagavad Gita, different devotees take different parts for various reasons. Even, believe it or not, Prabhupada, in one conversation, I was listening to it, Prabhupada was saying that, generally speaking, we understand that Duryodhana, for instance, is a partial expansion or manifestation of Kali or something like that. Generally considered rather demoniac. There are reasons to that too. One is his association with Shakuni, that is mentioned. Shakuni seemed to be a very manifestation of demoniacism or something. But anyway, whatever the reasons were, Prabhupada explains in discussion, I think it was Hari Suri Prabhu who asked the question, Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, I just can't understand it. I can't understand it. Why is it that Balaram always seems to favor Duryodhana? Balaram left. He wouldn't take part in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He didn't like this whole idea. He had equal affinity, with Duryodhana, Bhima. He was okay, but he had a special affinity for Duryodhana. When Subhadra's marriage, Balaram was in favor of her marrying Duryodhana. Weird. Why? Of course, you can say, oh, it's all part of, the pastimes that had to evolve, the lessons we have to learn. But there's more to it. Have any of you ever taken part in a drama? I don't mean New Mayapur, I mean a drama on stage. We have a momentary drama here, every moment practically. But on a stage. Some of you acting? Yeah. Now, sometimes, I don't know, Maharaj, did you ever take part in drama? A little bit in the manor or elsewhere? Before coming to Prabhupada's movement? Really? Well, far out. Yeah, well, in ISKCON, many of us have been involved in drama, and everybody knows that, if you're playing a part in a drama, what's the first law? Not the law exactly, but the main secret of being successful in a drama. What's the main secret?
To imbibe your role.
Excuse me?
To imbibe the character.
Yes. To imbibe, as much as one can, of course, the qualities of the part which you're playing, the personality, isn't it? You may be really considered in the world around you a really nice person, relatively, and you play the role of Hiranyakashipu. I'm really sorry, Prahlad. I really didn't mean to hurt you there. You're completely correct. I'm really sorry. I mean, I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. You can't say like that. You have to fully imbibe that part through and through. A little few restrictions, But more less like that is taking that part. So devotees, by the arrangement of Yoga Maya, they take these various positions. Krishna's will. They take various positions. So Duryodhana, Prabhupada answered, quite amazing. He said, because Duryodhana is the eternal servant of Balaram. In this particular, appearance of the Lord, he appears inimical. Hiranyakashipu also appeared inimical. He's the eternal associate also. It's far out. How the Lord's devotees are willing to take. We shouldn't imitate, by the way. and say, I'm going to be inimical to the devotees and take this part because I'm acting on behalf of Krishna to test them, to help them to advance in devotional service. No, we're not so advanced. We're not completely instrumental in the Lord's hands. We have to follow the footsteps of the devotees. But we can also learn from these various. Indra, of course, Indra's a post, and there are different persons who take the position of posts. But nonetheless, we can learn a lot from Indra's behavior too. He might be a Sakama Bhakti. He's a devotee of the Lord, but he's a little materialistic. And he loses it. Even Lord Brahma lost it one time. Covered over. Tried to steal the calves of the cowherd boys. Other reasons are there. There's all so many reasons. And many we don't know, we don't need to know. We just need to know what we need to know. What lessons can we learn from this? Good association. I think the essential feature here is association. And even Hiranyakashipu. You may have read this. It's in the Hari Bhakti Sudadaya. Madhavendra Puri Prabhu. Tell us, where is the Hari... I know, but you may tell everyone. Where is the Hari Bhakti Sudadaya, this scripture? We hear it quoted. Prabhupada quoted it many, many times. Okay, it's a part of the Naradiya Purana. The Naradiya Purana is written by Vyasadeva. So it's authorized Shastra. It's a part of the Naradiya Purana, the Hari Bhakti Sudadaya. And there's many, many pastimes that's described in there. Particularly in this particular case, it deals with Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. Interesting, Lord Chaitanya would spend much of his time with the general devotees if he was discussing Krishna Katha. He was not discussing Leela, Rasa Leela, Madhurya Leela, this and that. He was discussing mainly the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj for the general devotees. But we have to learn the lessons. Hiranyakashipu, there's a very interesting verse. You can read it in the Nectar of Devotion, where Prabhupada quotes. Prabhupada says, in the Hari Bhakti Sudadaya, Hiranyakashipu speaks. Because it's a discussion between, Hiranyakashipu and whoever, his associates. I think it was after the death of Hiranyaksha, I'm not sure. But some pastime there. And there Hiranyakashipu quotes a very famous verse. In brief, he describes how association acts. And he says association is just like if you come before a crystal. Does everyone know what a crystal is? This is kind of a difficult question for you to answer in a sense, because if you don't know what it is. Anyway, what's a crystal? Say, what's a crystal? Do you know what that means? What's a crystal, Lochan?
It's a stone. When you hold it, you see things.
Yeah, it's got many sides to it usually, hasn't it? But wherever you look, you see the reflection in there. It's almost like glass. So he used this example, this very special stone, crystal, and he said that, association acts just like a crystal. Whatever you put before it is reflected. And he said, therefore, you should be very careful in your association. In his own words, you should choose good association, he said. Of course, what means good association for him and the good association for Prahlad are not necessarily the same thing. We see how Prahlad, he also associated with the demon sons, they were demonic, but back to the point of preaching, he was of course able to preach to them at that stage directly, and he transformed them to a large extent. They were chanting Hare Krishna. He didn't succumb to all of the pressures of Sandanamarka to try to make him into a good gentleman. Hiranyakashipu wanted to turn him into a gentleman, a good pound, shillings and pence man, an atheist, a demon, searching for sense gratification, exploit the world, kill your enemies. Sometimes we think a little like this, maybe. But he was not affected. He was protected. How was he protected? By the Lord. How? How was he protected? Quite a simple.
Krishna gives you good association.
He gave him good association. He was definitely. Pardon? Well, ultimately, Nrsimhadev protected him. But he was protected all along because he was remembering the Lord. He remembered what he heard from who? Narada. He had the best of association when he was in the womb of his mother, Gayadu, or whatever her name was. And he heard Krishna Katha, he heard Krishna consciousness in the womb. And he embraced it. Protected by remembering the instructions which he'd heard from Narada Muni. So when we're in difficult situations, try to not get carried away by our conditioning. Try to remember, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of Bhagavatam, etc. Maybe some pastimes. The Lord Prabhupada said, if Krishna doesn't perform these pastimes, what are we going to think about? Yeah. Nowadays people are very interested in modernization, modernism or whatever it is, conspiracies, wokeism, etc., etc. Your whole mind goes into a whole thing trying to analyze this. What can you say? It may be true, it may not be true. It may be useful sometimes for presenting Krishna consciousness, but that's not our business. Our real business is to absorb our minds. Yes, we may not understand, but just the mere fact that we were trying to hear, who is Ugrasena? We heard the other day about Ugrasena. It's not like this, for instance. Very interesting. It occupies our mind. It purifies our consciousness. It's associating. Good association. Otherwise we think all this nonsense. You go on your mobile phone, you go on the internet, the news, the this, the that. It all covers our consciousness, helps material desires to blossom, and that we become offensive, and Krishna out of association. We have to be very careful how we associate if we want to progress in spiritual life. So little things like that. Ugrasena, we may think, okay, just read it. As Maharaj asked, Shalva, does this mean that the Kauravas, the Yadus rather, went to the kingdom of Shalva for protection? I don't know. But it's interesting. You remember it. It's something related to Krishna. It's with Bhagavatam. So Ugrasena, for instance, who was Ugrasena? He's a great devotee. He was a big devotee. But how is it he gave birth to Kamsa, the number one demon? You could say the same thing, everything's orchestrated by the Lord, but there's also a fascinating history there. How his wife, how we mentioned the other day, Ugrasena's wife, she one time went to, was it Indra Lokas? And there she associated, unknowingly, she thought it was her husband, one demon. A demon associate of Kavara disguised himself as Ugrasena and came before her and had sexual union. And Kamsa was born from that. He's not the son of Ugrasena at all. He is and he isn't. He wasn't directly the son. All these things, okay, they're not necessary, but they just capture us and bring us to the Bhagavatam. They bring us to the subject we really need to associate with. We need to associate with devotees who are, what can we say? We're all different. Try to associate with devotees who are positive, who like to chant Hare Krishna, who like to hear Bhagavatam. It's easy to get captured these days by social media and so on. This is the real social media. This is our real society. The society of the devotees. This temporary one in this material dream-like world is here 1 minute and gone the next. Try to associate. I'll just finish off with 1 or 2 little quotes on the importance of association. This is from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I just finished off that quote of Hiranyakashipu. It's very interesting. It's actually Hiranyakashipu speaking to Prahlad. Amazing. My dear son, he says, association is very important. It acts just like a crystal stone which will reflect anything which is put before. In the Bhagavad Gita, But Krishna explains how we carry our different conceptions from one life to the next by association. If you associate with a bed of roses, you have a nice fragrance. You should have. And if you associate with stool, you have the flavor of stool. Association is really what covers our consciousness or colors our consciousness. By the association we hold. It said you can tell a person by the association they hold or have. So, very important. And then the modes of nature, how we associate with the modes. The whole idea is to relate them all to Krishna, of course. But we have to be careful. The whole point is to create, at least to try to cultivate the mode of goodness in many ways as we can, with cleanliness, neatness, behavior, etc. So here we have Dhruva Maharaj now speaking. O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life, just like the sun is not contaminated when it comes into contact with a body of dirty water or stool, but rather it purifies. The Vaishnavas are the same, and even a moment's association with those devotees can change our lives, isn't it? What's that famous verse? Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. Lava Matra, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. A moment's association, it plants the seed of devotion in our hearts. Every learned man, Lord Kapila Dev says it, knows that the greatest entanglement for living entity is our association or our attachment to the material sense enjoyment. That same attachment, when transferred to the self-realized souls, is the cause of our liberation. And what are we supposed to do in the association of devotees? Satampa Sangam, Mamavirya Sangvido, Bhavanti Vitkarna Rasayanakataha. What are we supposed to do? Sit around chatting about the weather? Sitting around complaining about everything? When you get older, Marsh, we all know this, isn't it? Many of us are in our twilight years. Health issues become more of a general topic. Prabhu, how's your health? Mataji, how's your health? Oh, not too bad. I've got a few pains and aches here and there, but we're surviving. And I went to the doctor last week, and it's kind of part of, you could say, old age, but it's not the real essence of old age. Old age is a glorious time to focus more and more, dedicate ourselves more and more just to devotional service. Every stage, but especially old age. Time is warning. Old age is a warning that death is on our doorstep. Association. And when we do hear from the right sources, from those devotees, those pure souls, when we hear it, it has a very very happy effect on us. And Prithu Prabhu and Gopaswami Prabhu and Bhakti His Holiest Maharaj, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, and any other devotee who had the chance to associate with Prabhupada, you just know what it was like when you would sit even for a few minutes in Prabhupada's association. Your heart can just change like that. Your whole mood, your whole concept, perception, everything can change so quickly in the association of someone who's fixed in devotional service. It awakens such... I remember there was one where, he wasn't initiated by Prabhupada, but he met Prabhupada quite a few times. His name was Mahavishnu Goswami, but he was addicted to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. And I had a very close relationship with him because from 1974 onwards, I would talk to him when he would come to the manor. So we were a very close relationship. And it's just so inspiring to be with somebody like that who just reminds us of Srimad Bhagavatam with their every word. Every word. You just can't help it. You want to study the Bhagavatam, learn verses from the Bhagavatam. Such a wonderful thing to do. So Dhruva Maharaj said, kindly bless me Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. We don't realize how dangerous the situation is sometimes. We take it for granted almost. We're so conditioned. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad, to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes which are eternally existent. Becoming mad to hear about them. Even if we don't understand them, Prabhupada says, Krishna book, you may not understand, just read it. We'll become purified. The significant point, Prabhupada writes in the purport, is in Dhruva Maharaj's statement, is that he wanted the association of pure devotees. Transcendental devotional service cannot be complete and cannot be relishable without the association of devotees. I know some devotees say, better I stay away from the devotees. I've heard that a few times. There are, just like we saw with Akura, there are reasons for that, but that doesn't necessarily solve the reason until we learn our lesson. I told that story a little bit a week or so ago of my own experience, and I'm not going to tell it again. We have therefore established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Anyone who is trying to be aloof from this Krishna Consciousness Society and yet engage in Krishna consciousness is living in a great hallucination, for this is not possible. This is a very broad subject. It's not a monopolized, institutionalized, let's say, statement. It means Krishna conscious society. You have to. This Krishna consciousness society is not just an institution based upon rules and regulations, or, ISKCON law book or whatever it may be. It's a state of consciousness. Consciousness. So if we don't associate with those who are developing, cultivating Krishna consciousness, we want to be alone in our conditioned state. We're not Prahlad Maharaj, we're not Srila Prabhupada. We still have tendencies for material attachment. We're still under the influence of the material energy to some degree at least. We have to be very careful to keep good association. From this statement by Dhruva Maharaj, it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. It's the same thing. By association, we develop certain concepts, certain nature which carries us forward. We start to find doubts even in Krishna conscious philosophy. We start feeling negative towards devotees. We start looking for faults in devotees. We don't look at our own faults, by the way. That's one of the unique things about, let's say not such good association, or when we're on our own. It may happen sometimes, if Krishna is very kind. Sometimes he does give us those realizations we need. That's another thing. That happens if we're a little sincere. The Lord says, here, finish that. It is clear that unless one associates with devotees, his devotional service does not mature, it does not become distinct from material activity. It gradually blends into materialism. The mentality of a materialist, fault-finding, all about me in the center. It's a big thing now in this world. Me. I am the victim. It's a big thing. Worldwide. It's juxtaposed to the very principle of Krishna consciousness. We're supposed to become Krishnendriya. Put Krishna in the center. We're all victims of our own choice. The hell we're doing in this material world in the first place. We're crazy. And we've done so many things which have, continued this repetitive life of suffering in relationship with others. We've all been victims and victimizing each other. No one is innocent. Nobody. And unfortunately, when we start putting ourselves in the center, we start to discriminate. We start to, find faults in others. Start blaming others for our situation. There's an external factor which needs to be dealt with from the administrative point of view, but the internal factor is the whole purpose of it all. Not just to make a goody-goody society, it's to get out of this world. Never to come back. To take shelter of Krishna. But from this statement, we read, the Lord says, Satam Pasangam, we mentioned already. Only in the association of pure devotees can the words of Lord Krishna be fully potent and relishable to the heart and ear. Dhruva Maharaj explicitly wanted the association of devotees. That association in devotional activities is just like the waves of an incessantly flowing river. It flows to the ocean, it doesn't stop. In our Krishna Consciousness Society, we have full engagement, 24 hours a day. Did you all hear that? In our Krishna Consciousness Society, we have full engagement 24 hours a day. And if you're not engaged fully, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Pardon? Mam chiyovya vicharana bhakti yogena sevate sugunan samati tirtam brahmabhuya kalpate. What does it mean?
You transcend the gunas.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can transcend these three modes. How?
By taking shelter of Krishna.
Yes, but in this particular verse, Mam chiyovya vicharana. Pardon?
Constantly serving.
Constantly engaged. Those who are fully engaged in devotional service. We don't fall down in any circumstance. They can transcend the three modes. We have to be careful. We sometimes take, I've done too much service already. I've finished my rounds. Thank God. I did my 4 hours of service. Leave me alone. 24 hours a day. That is devotional service. It's not a part-time job. Weekend, hour at the church or whatever it is, I went to Kirtan for 30 minutes. That's enough. Let me see if I can get out of it. I'm sick. I am sick. I am sick. I am sick. I must be sick. I've got to be sick. Please, I've got to convince them I'm sick. I don't need to go there. I read it before. I heard it before. Depends what we want in life. Do we want to go back to Godhead, or we want to stay in this world forevermore? You make your choices. Our choice. No one else is to blame for that one. Of course, they may be if they're not so. In one sense, you could say others should be helping us to remind us of that. But that's what we should all be doing. But in reality, we have to make our choices. Every moment of our time, Prabhupada says, is always busily engaged in the service of the Lord. It may not be the same. We may have health issues which need to be taken into account. We may need to rest. Some of you may need to rest an hour or two a day, I don't know. Maybe more than an hour or two. You get more than an hour or two rest? Sometimes, 6 hours, whatever it is, But whatever time we have, we should fully engage it as much as we can in Krishna's service. This is called the incessant flow of devotional service. That will take us to the ocean of devotion. Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chitete Kuriya Hekya. If we want to become saintly persons, or if we want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with sadhu and guru, saintly persons. The root cause, Prabhupada writes, is it a verse? Or I think it's the verse. It's the verse. The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. The purport of this statement by Dhruva Maharaj is that devotional service in the association of devotees is the cause of the development of further devotional service. It's caused by devotional service, is caused by devotional service, which is caused by association with a devotee. It is possible to mature in devotional service only in the association of devotees. One should learn how to associate with devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. And by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. We could go on and on how that association should be cemented, and we should be reminded also, we hear from Rupa Goswami, for instance, in the Nectar of Instruction, these symptoms, or let's say that which is favorable for devotional service and that which is unfavorable. In both places he says more or less the same thing. Jana Sangha. Jana Sangha is unfavorable. What is Jana Sangha? So say with me, I'm a Jana. What is Jana Sangha?
Associating with common people.
Pardon?
Associating with common people.
Yeah, associate with common people, worldly-minded people, persons who are attached to sense gratification, etc. Association is unfavorable for our progress in spiritual life. We have to learn how to associate. We try to give Krishna's association or give devotional service or show an example, protect ourselves by our own sadhana, our own devotional service, taking shelter of Krishna, and try to act in such a way that we're not so affected by association in the world, and we try to show a good example, and whenever chance is there, give Krishna consciousness to others. Prasadam, books, whatever. And in the verse which describes that which is favorable, what does Rupa Goswami say there?
Sadhu Sangha Sato Vite.
Pardon? Sadhu Sangha Sato Vite. We have to, yes, but he says Asat Sangha also. Carefully avoid bad association. Carefully avoid bad association. It's a huge subject. You have to think about it, look into it, study it if you want, if you have the time and feel you're ready. Study the what it means and try to apply it in our lives. Try to become good association. Prabhupada write that many times, say that many times. You become the good association. Don't expect others. One devotee wrote to Prabhupada one time. Prabhupada said, I'm alone, Srila Prabhupada. I have no association. I need good association. Prabhupada said, you read my books carefully and become the good association. You read Prabhupada's books carefully. Don't just skip over them like, can't remember what, we read 1 second earlier. Study a little. Try to hear with rapt attention. Many factors we could say, but as much as possible try to hear this subject, enter into it. It's to be digested. It's like food. If you just stuff it down as quick as we can, sometimes I see myself also probably just eating things as quickly as possible, isn't it? And then you don't digest properly, huh? Doesn't digest properly. Vishnu Jam, what do you think? Monkey style. But they have different digestives. If we want to really digest it, you're supposed to chew it nicely. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be chewed like that, digested nicely, so that again it becomes, has its effect. It nourishes us. We become Christians. Okay, I have an excuse. I cannot see a clock in any direction, so I have a good excuse. Sita Priya.
I have a question. You speak about the association. Can I think that my worst association is my own mind?
With your own mind?
Yeah, this is the worst association is my mind. And then, because if you have association with the people who is not good, you can sometimes you use your intelligence and see, but the mind is very difficult.
The mind is difficult? What's the problem with the mind? You mean to say you don't think of Krishna sometimes? I thought we thought of Krishna 24 hours a day, isn't it? Wouldn't it be nice? The mind. Well, you will definitely have heard it many times. The mind can be your greatest friend or your greatest enemy, and Krishna gives a little direction to do when we notice it becomes a little inimical, etc. So what do we do? Yes, the mind. What is the mind? What is the mind? What is it? Don't mind. What is the mind? What is it?
Chariot is driven by wild horses.
Excuse me?
Like a chariot driven by wild
C'est un
horses.
chariot, comme un chat qui est
Like the what?
Chariot.
Chariot?
driven by wild horses.
Driven by wild horses? So, well, yeah, you could give that analogy or that example, but the mind is like the what? The reins, isn't it? The reins on that wild horse, with the wild horses on the chariot. Yes, it can be very wild. When the intelligence is out of control, as you just mentioned, sometimes we can control and sometimes we can't. Forgetfulness. So what do we do? What do you do? Just listen to your mind all the time? If it's pure devotional service in your mind, you could say, well, it's taking us our friend. It's reminding us of Krishna all the time. We're seeing Krishna, or the instructions of Krishna, or devotional service to Krishna. Nice. But that's not always the case. Even if it is, there's still yet generally some kind of interpretation there, something mixed in there. It's not always so pure. Our devotion is often mixed. In fact, always mixed at our stage. What do we do? Pardon? Chant Hare Krishna, very good. Keep chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes that's not always so easy. Yeah. It's easy, but you may be in a situation, somebody says something, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Maharaj, what's this? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai! Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Which way do you go? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Where's the prasadam table? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Don't ask me questions. Whatever. We have to have a little intelligence, huh? How do we sharpen our intelligence? How do you sharpen it? Pardon? Guruvani. Gauravani? Guruvani. Guruvani. Yes, indeed. Follow instructions of spiritual masters. So what instructions does he give? How we sharpen our intelligence. I mean, where is it? In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, with spiritual strength. You cut this ignorance. Huh? Pardon? Tour of France? You can say control the senses, yes. So intelligence is supposed to be like that, but it's not so easy. How do we sharpen the intelligence?
Listen to those who are intelligent.
Pardon?
Listen to those who are intelligent.
Listen to those who are intelligent, correct. If you're not intelligent, you may not always know who those who are intelligent are. What else does Prabhupada say?
Study Prabhupada books.
Prabhupada says that, doesn't he? He writes that. We sharpen our intelligence by hearing from Shastra. The word Shastra, one is like a sword, one is scripture. By hearing scripture, you're very sharp. You become intelligence. Haven't you noticed that when you read Prabhupada's books? And you kind of like, don't you feel, doesn't it help clear things up a little bit? Have you ever noticed that? Of course, yes, Sadhu Sangha is essential. That was the thrust of the class. But in this particular case, Sadhu Sangha is naturally accepted. But even in the Sadhu Sangha, how we define that is in the association of those who are serious about Krishna conscious. They're hearing and chanting and worshipping and remembering and so on. Devotional service in its different limbs. They're fully engaged in devotional service. That's Sadhu Sangha. It's not just hanging around, fighting with each other, arguing, finding faults. This thing, that thing. But that which would change our perception, how we see things. And that is why Guru Shastra Sadhu is so important. That association can help change our concept also, but the way we see things, our perception, can change. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says it's by exposing ourselves to this transcendental sound vibration that our perception changes. So Shastra, hearing it in whatever form it may come, the holy name, hearing the holy name, or Shastra, hearing the Shastra, hearing the devotee, serious devotees, etc. cleanses our consciousness, sharpens our intelligence, and makes it, well, Krishna ultimately is the cause, but I mean, it helps us to see things in relationship with Krishna instead of following the whims of your mind, reacting like boom, like that. Someone offended our conditional idea of who we are, and we become angry, and we start to blame others, and this thing and that thing, and get embroiled in material life. Wait a minute. We did that before. We've been there before. Wait a minute. Try to practice a little bit more of a Krishna consciousness approach to the situation. Krishna arranges or allows us to be in to test us, so we can advance in our Krishna consciousness. Take it positively. It's like when you're chanting, your mind wanders. Everyone's experienced that. I can imagine that your mind wanders, isn't it? You're trying to chant Hare Krishna, Mahamantra. Your mind ever wander? Yes or no? And is there anyone who can say no to that? I don't know. You can say no, it never wanders from wandering. It never wanders from material sense gratification. It's always thinking of other things besides Krishna. But let's look at it the other way around. It wanders away from our objective goal quite frequently, quite easily. You can just go with it and follow the wind, blow here, blow there. Or you can take it positively. This is a chance for me to take shelter of Krishna. Krishna's giving me this opportunity now. I'm not on my own. He's taking me, give me a chance. I just take Krishna, help me to control my senses, whatever it is. Take shelter of Krishna. Call to Krishna, right? We cannot. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it is impossible for the jiva to single-handedly control the illusion of inattention. It's only possible by the mercy of Krishna. If you want to, he said, you therefore must pray fervently for Krishna's mercy. There is no other answer. The mercy of Krishna. If we're really serious, we pray for his mercy. Even Haridas Thakur, for our benefit, prays, my Lord, Mahaprabhu, please, I pray to you, please, may the 10 offences never affect me when I chant your holy name, and may I be always absorbed in the ras of Namaras. Even he's praying. Prabhupada was praying. Pure devotees, one of their qualities is they're always taking shelter of the Lord, of his internal potency. They're always taking shelter. They don't think on my own, I can control. This is another illusion. We do our best, according to Guru Shastra Sadhu, but ultimately we depend on Krishna. What can you do? We tried our best. Krishna will do the rest. Anything else? Yes, Mata. What's your good name? Chitra Lata. Chitra Lata. Rata? Chitra Rata. Okay.
All your classes went around preaching at the beginning, and after it evolved in the association of devotees to get the strength and the determination and the good attitude. And I'm wondering, I mean, I know maybe the answer, but I would like you to explicit more the relation between having good association with other devotees and be fit to preach because of
fit to preach?
Association.
Fit to preach. Yes. Fit to preach, not fat to preach, not too fat. How do you become fit to preach? Is that what you mean? How can we relate that to the association of devotees to become fit to preach? Well, I'm going to give you a chance to say a few words. Not you personally, you can also. What do you think? How we can become, what does the association of devotees have to do with becoming fit to preach? What do you think? Baptiste.
My personal experience is through devotee association, I get the knowledge and the understanding, and then it helps me to share it to others. So
Okay, there's one thing, isn't it? We hear, we may have our own doubts, we may have our own misunderstandings, but with the association of devotees, we hope that those doubts or misunderstandings or lack of understanding or lack of knowledge are cleared up a little bit, or that we get a little bit more understanding how we can present the subject matter in an effective way to whomever we're preaching to. That's another aspect of preaching, by the way. It's not just about knowing the subject, it's knowing how to present it in an effective way. It's like, I remember one very funny magazine, Brahmacharya. It was in Malaysia I saw this magazine. Maharaj and myself, we were in Malaysia on and off over the years, and it was sometime when I was in Malaysia, one devotee from Spain had made this kind of comical, kind of Krishna conscious comic about how devotees behave and are seen by others to some extent. We sometimes forget how our behavior and words are perceived by others. So this one scene which comes to mind was this devotee. He's preaching. So we used to get a lot of people gather around when we would do Harinam. Not so many now in the West. And I'm sure you experienced that. You were in Dublin preaching? Maharaj? You preached in Dublin. I mean, Dublin was a very common place that many people would gather around you when you do Harinam. It was quite extraordinary. They still do now even. The Irish people are, they're very special. Maharaj has Irish streak. And many people gathered. This devotee is just a comic. It's not. He's preaching there to all of these so-called the crowd. And the next, he's saying, "This is a society of cats and dogs." And all the people go away. And suddenly all these cats and dogs have sat there listening to him. They're all their ears up. Society of cats and dogs. I mean, it's just, you have to take that a little bit of a broadening of the understanding. Is that we don't preach at people. You have to kind of like connect with them so that they can somehow catch something that will, make them attract of some form. If it's just, how many of you guys want to be happy? Anybody here want to be happy? Crowd said, yeah, sure. Then come on, let's be happy together. Come on, after me. Come on, son. Come on, boys. Come on, girls. Hey, come on, you can do it. Come on, what's lazy? Didn't eat enough this morning or what? It's completely off the wall what you're saying in one sense, but it gets them to chant Hare Krishna. Somehow or another get people to chant Hare Krishna. Whatever it takes, preaching. You have to know how to present and to get to your goal, not just, the goal. How to get there. According to type, it's like education. You have to know how to educate a kid according to their level of maturity. And don't start teaching university subjects to a 5-year-old kid to know what is sufficient. So you may know more. So learning how to present things, not just what to present or subject matter or knowledge, whatever, is one thing. What else? How we become fit in the association of devotees to preach. Anything else? Anyone else volunteer? Suggestion? Yes, or the same question?
Also, maybe to see the soul. I mean, to see, or to try to see the soul, the real person in everyone.
Well, that's the kind of stage of you can try to impose that, but that's really a stage of realization, of advancement in Krishna. What I was thinking you were going to say was that you see by the behavior of others, in the association of devotees. I remember the first ever preaching program I went on, and it stuck in my mind. 1972, it's the beginning of 1972, first outside preaching program. We went on this program to this young Christians' hall somewhere south of London in the countryside. And there was about 30 young Christians that gathered, and somehow or other the leader had invited us to come and speak about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And so there's about 6 of us there. I was just a young Bhakta Jeff, and I was a car driver, but I didn't have any other role to play. I was just there listening to the lecture. It was given by Bhakta Paul, who has been in the movement 3 months longer than me, so he was an old devotee. You don't know what it's like, now. You think, oh God, I've only been in the movement 2 years, who am I? If you've been in the movement 2 years in those days, you were like an old man almost, It's like you were the senior most devotee in the temple, practically. So anyway, back to Paul gave the lecture, and he ran out of words after about 10 minutes. He couldn't speak anymore. And he just said, any questions? And one Christian gentleman put his hand up, young man, said, in the Bible it says, Jesus is the truth, the way and the light. No one shall come to me but through, God said, but through Jesus, through me. No one shall come to God but through me. Huh? You know that saying? I may have got it a little wrong, but do you know that one? I am the truth, the way, the light, and no one shall come to the Father but through me. Something like that, isn't it? He said, what do you have to say about that? He challenged him. So, you can imagine a new boy in front of 30 or 40 Christians, and so a couple of older devotees in the hall also, and you're trying to answer this, and he kind of started bubbling, his mouth started bubbling, and then one of the older devotees, who actually was initiated, I'm not going to say his name, he's an initiated devotee, been in the movement 6 or 7 months, answered. This is how I learned to preach effectively. He said, do you eat meat? That was a good answer. Change the subject, kind of. Do you eat meat? And the Christian couldn't relate to this. What on earth has this got to do with the question I just asked? He kind of looked around at the other Christians. They're all kind of looking at each other, thinking like this. What type of answer is that? And then he said, "Do you eat meat?" He repeated it. He said, "Yes, of course I eat meat." Then he capped the whole program off. It was a perfect answer he gave. "You are as good as a pig!" he shouted at him. A brilliant preaching program. Everybody left. All 30 walked out the door. The guy who asked us to come told us to buzz off, don't come back again, and didn't give us a penny for our petrol. And the good thing about it was all the prasadam was left for us. 6 of us. We had a great time with the prasadam. But that's an example of how not to preach. You may be right, but it's wrong. You may be right in one sense, you know what I mean? So we learn from devotees how, you don't just go in there. When we were young, it's not that we should always be enthusiastic, but sometimes we're a bit bubbly. I remember the first devotee ever preached to me. The first day I went to the temple, I was doing many things. They asked me to do one thing after the other. I was there for 10 hours, and I didn't have a second to spare in those 10 hours in service. And I'd never seen a devotee before. There was an infectious disease of devotional service. It's very dangerous to associate with someone who's mad about devotional service. Anyway, one of my services that day was helping Dayananda Prabhu make incense. So he sent me up to the top room. We were packing incense, spiritual sky incense, 5, 10, 15, 20 into the packet. 5, 10, 15, boom, very mechanical, but very blissful. And there was a wonderful devotee, American devotee, a black boy. He was probably in the movement more than a day or two at least. He was preaching to us. It was me and 2 other hippies, 3 of us. And he was preaching. He said, the first thing you have to understand about Krishna consciousness is you have to avoid the 10 offenses when you chant Hare Krishna. Well, none of us were chanting Hare Krishna, but anyway. He went on and on about the 10 offenses. It was completely irrelevant, in a sense, to the whole... because that was something on his mind. He probably heard it and he was trying to memorize it and he wanted to speak it, And then I see others... they're preaching to people about how Hiranyakashipu ripped, how Lord Nrsimhadev ripped Hiranyakashipu's guts to shreds. And a new boy just walked into the door and he's hearing all about Hiranyakashipu being ripped to pieces by Nrsimhadev's nails. And it's not probably the most appropriate thing to share with new people who come to the first time to the temple. Many people go on and on and on. Like relevance, knowledge is essential, but it has to be presented relevantly. So we learn from other devotees. In the association of devotees, we hope we can learn something how to present things. What else is important in terms of association and preaching? Anything else? You put your hand up too many times. Anyone else got a hand? You want to put it up? Dionytypo, you're a preacher. Here's a man who goes out every day on book distribution. Except for today. What are you doing here?
I'm still lost. My mind is wandering.
Your mind is wandering. That's what happens by my association. Huh?
I should go in books, but I don't find anyone in the forest.
These people here are all totally they don't want books. We've tried already. None of them want any books. They're hopeless candidates. They all say, I know all these things. I know all these things, they say. Yes, what is your comment?
So my question is...
No, I'm asking for a comment. We're still on this question. How else is the association of devotees helping us to become fit to preach?
So it gives us enthusiasm more enthusiasm to distribute books.
Okay, it should be, huh? You should, the enthusiasm of devotees, it should be in the association of devotees. You know, if you associate with devotees, everyone's, I've had enough of this. I don't want to go on Sankirtan anymore. That's for the neophytes, huh? God dear, they don't like us out there at all. First time I came to France, not the first time I came to France, but in 2007 I started coming regularly to France. And I remember the first day I was here, I said, can we go on Harinam Sankirtan? The devotees said no. I said, why not? He said, they don't like us. They don't like us out there. That's what they said. They don't like us. I said, how do we know? He said, because that's what our experience was. And I said, when was that? About 10 years ago. So maybe there's some new people out there now. Maybe things have changed. Why don't we give it a go? And a few devotees came out, we went out, and it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. But if you have this mentality, it's a waste of time. Why are we doing this? No one's coming. You know, they don't like us. We get in trouble. It gives a bad impression. All this is very detrimental to our Krishna consciousness. Very detrimental. If devotees say, you know, if you see devotees, let's go on Sankirtan. And they're very happy, enthusiastic. Prabhu is a guest. Let's share Krishna consciousness with them. Show them the books. Sit them down. Give them prasadam. Be nice to them. Show them around. You know, be positive. If you're in association of those who are positive, as we mentioned earlier, it's like infectious. First time I ever came to the temple, Mandakini was the first devotee I ever met, French devotee. He opened the door for me when I got to Bury Place, and in we went. And she immediately took me down for prasadam. Prasadam was stuffed to the brim with prasadam. And then straight away, it was Swinburne. I don't know if you remember Swinburne. Maharaj, you remember him in London? He may have gone by the time you joined. He's an Australian devotee.
Oh, I know him from Australia.
Huh? Someone knows him?
Yeah.
Heard of him. Anyway, Swinburne was a very sweet person. He came up to me, I hair down to my waist with jeans and t-shirt, hippie. He said, hey, would you like to come on Sankirtan with us? Would you like to come on Sankirtan? I said, what's Sankirtan? It's bliss, it's ecstasy. That was his answer. I had no idea, and I didn't know what to say. It was too quick. All of a sudden, everyone got up, whoom, like a wave, like we heard here. The river flowing down to the ocean. Everyone got up, woof, out the door, onto Oxford Street. And the next 2 hours, we're going down Oxford Street with a group of these bald-headed, strange-looking people chanting Hare Krishna all the time. It was infectious, though. It was like a wave of enthusiasm. You expect to become enthusiastic in the association of devotees. Supposed to be. It's one of the hallmarks of a Vaishnava. He's enthusiastic, isn't it? Not morose. Oh boy, I've got so many problems. Oh God. The blooming temple commander just asked me to wash the pots. Damn it. Got so many problems. Getting up for Mangalati is hell. Hell. Jeez. I only had 5 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds sleep last night. I measured it. I'm so tired. Dear, dear. This prasadam, I only got 2 slices of pizza. This is not fair. They got 3. Damn it. I'm leaving this place. You can go on and on and on and on with all kinds of stupid things. But enthusiasm. You're supposed to become enthusiastic. That's what the association's for, not just to talk about all the issues. This thing, that thing. Did you hear about so-and-so, what they did? Ooh, just don't tell anyone whatever you do. Please don't tell anyone. I told him I'll keep it secret. Don't tell anyone, okay? You know how it goes. What the world? I remember Ramcharan. You remember Ramcharan, Prabhu? Malaysian devotee very well. He had a wonderful way of dealing with all of this. Prabhu, this devotee is, yes, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's causing me so many problems. Ramcharan would say, oh, back to Bill. Yeah, he's a wonderful devotee, isn't he? Isn't he wonderful? You know what happened yesterday? He was so kind. He saved prasadam for me. He's such a nice devotee. I'm glad you brought him up. He reminds me of this nice devotee. And immediately they go away. I don't want to hear that. I wanted someone to listen to my gripes. I don't want to hear praise of somebody. But he was really good at transforming and avoiding the negativity like that. Really good. To see the good qualities. Of course you have to deal with it if it's a problem, but we're not here just to talk about all that. Glorification of the holy name, glorification of Vaishnavas, glorification of Bhagavatam, and spreading Krishna consciousness is our purpose. It is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. It's not the mission of this one and that one. It's not our mission. It's Lord Chaitanya's mission, and the association of Srila Prabhupada. And still in the association of Prabhupada, you can become enthusiastic to become a missionary, an ambassador of the holy name, wherever you go. Chant Hare Krishna. That itself is preaching. Wherever you are, wherever you go, chant the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Come on, that wasn't very enthusiastic. What's wrong with you all? Come on. Maharaj, that wasn't enthusiastic, was it? Not enough. Not enough. Come on. One more time. Come on, hands up. Surrender! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare! That was better. I think even the sleeping devotees out there may have woken up now. There's one of them just come out of his tent. What's going on around here? You woke me up! Oh, good. It's prasadam time. Thank God they woke me up. Actually, it's almost lunchtime. Hare Krishna. Excuse-moi. Anyway, what to do?
The coach is arriving 10:15.
The coach is arriving. We're going on Harinam at 10:15. So quick breakfast. The Harinam, is that for Harinam?
The devotees coming from
Oh, I thought you meant for Harinam.
The devotees are coming from London.
The devotees are coming from London. Haribo! 15 minutes time. Maybe wait for prasadam, or you take prasadam, you do what you like.
Senior devotees can take, maybe young devotees.
Everyone can take it, isn't it? I mean, you can't force everyone. Yeah. We're sorry for, I didn't, because I said I don't look at my watch very often, and I can't see the clock here.